Hi guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. So this week is the 4th of July here in the United States. Well, I guess it's the 4th of July everywhere, but on the 4th of July, the United States celebrates our Independence Day. And so I thought that in honor of the holiday, I would do a 4th of July book tag. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. So this is a tag that was created a number of years ago, and I will tag the original creator and the video down in the description box. But the first prompt is to show 3 books, one red, one white, and one blue, that you have already read. And I don't own a lot of my read books. I get a lot of my books either via audiobook or physical book from the library. So I'm going to be inserting pictures of the covers of these books, but I decided to go with books that I have not previously mentioned on my channel before. So my red book that I thought that I would mention is Seconds by Bryan Lee O'Malley, and this is a graphic novel. It's an adult graphic novel that is about this girl who lives above a restaurant, and there's like spirits in the restaurant, and it's just kind of about that. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I read it a couple of years ago. Highly recommend as far as graphic novels go, but its cover is definitely red, so that is my red book. My white book that I decided to go with is Invictus by Ryan Graudin, and this is a YA sci-fi book, I believe is the genre you would classify this under. It's kind of like the space version of National Treasure is the way that it was kind of described to me when I went into it. It is about this group of people that have learned how to time travel, and they go back in time and try to learn about different things in history and try to save different relics and things like that. And so it was really good. It was definitely not quite what I was expecting, but it was decent. I think I rated it 3 stars when I read it. It was another one that I've read a couple of years ago, but I really did enjoy it. And so yeah, but that is my white book. And then my blue book is Wonder by R.J. Palacio, and I don't know as though anybody needs me to go through what this book is about, but if you are unfamiliar with it, it is a middle grade book that is about a little boy, Augie, who has a facial deformity, and a pretty severe one, and he is going into a public school setting, or private school, but into a school setting for the first time. He has previously only been homeschooled, and so it's just kind of from his point of view and going through the struggles and the challenges that he's facing as far as being accepted at school and getting made fun of and bullied. It's also told in the perspective of his sister and one of his friends, and so it goes through a couple different perspectives, but it is phenomenal. The movie of this came out a couple of years ago, I think, and I read it then because my kids had read it in school when the movie came out, and I absolutely loved this book. And so if you have not previously read this, I would highly recommend it. But yeah, the cover's blue, so there's my blue book. The second prompt is to name a book that features your favorite ragtag group of revolutionaries. For this one, I decided to go with The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, and this is Cinder Scarlet, Cress, Winter, and then Fairest is kind of a separate, not quite part of the original series. But these are all sci-fi fairy tale retellings. They are YA, and they are just about a group of revolutionaries who are definitely ragtag. They're from a little bit of everywhere. You have everyone from military to country, people who live in the country, to a cyborg, to a prince. And so there's just kind of a little bit of everybody thrown in, and they're all working as a team to bring change to their world. So I really enjoyed these. I listened to these on audiobook, and they are to this day some of my favorite audiobooks. And yes, they are definitely one of my favorite series of all times. Highly recommend it, but definitely one of my favorite groups of revolutionaries. The next prompt is to show a book that takes place in one of the original 13 colonies. And for this one, I decided it would be appropriate to mention America's First Daughter, which I recently hauled in my most recent thrift haul. But this is the story of Patsy Jefferson, and it takes place in France a little bit, and then it sounds like she comes over to Virginia eventually. But seeing as though this has to do with one of our founding fathers' daughters, but kind of our founding father as well, I thought that this would be appropriate, but this takes place in Virginia. I have not read this yet, but hopefully we'll be getting to it very soon. Number 4 is to show a book that takes place in England, and so I decided to pick Victoria, which covers the life of Queen Victoria, and I thought that this would be appropriate because it definitely takes place in England. It's about one of their queens, and so this I also have not read, but I really want to because I love the BBC show Victoria, and so this is kind of the same thing but in book form, but I really want to get to this. So have not read it yet. If you've read this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Number 5 is to show a book that ends with a bang. And I was going through all of the books that I had read and trying to find one that I felt ended with a bang. And a lot of my books, I've realized, don't really end with a huge hurrah at the end. It's more of like a we're gonna wrap things up kind of nicely. There's a bang throughout the book, but not necessarily at the very end. So the one that I decided to pick for this is another Marissa Meyer book, which kind of, I don't know how I feel about that, but it's Renegades, and that's because at the very end of this I was like, well, that's something I wasn't expecting. Kind of was a little bit, but not quite enough. But this was the book that I felt ended with a bang, and I thought was pretty good. So this is kind of a heroes versus villains series that she's been working on. Currently out are Renegades, and the sequel Arch Enemies, I think is the name of it. I've read it, I should know. Anyway, and I think there's another one coming out next year maybe. Probably should have looked that up. Oh well. But anyway, there are more coming. I know at least one more in this series. But Renegades, I felt ended with a bang, and I enjoyed it. Not as much as the Lunar Chronicles, but I still did enjoy Renegades and Arch Enemy. And then the last prompt for this tag is similar to the first one, and that's to show 3 books, one red, one white, one blue. But these are books that you have not read yet, but you want to read. So 3 of your TBR books that are red, white, and blue. And so for this, I'm going to go with some that I also hauled in a thrift haul altogether, and that's going to be Scythe for my red book, Nevernight for my white book, and Throne of Glass for my blue book. So red, white, and blue. And these I hauled all 3 at the same time. They're all 3 YA fantasy books. Throne of Glass has been around for forever by Sarah J. Maas, and honestly I'm not 100% what it's completely about, but that's okay. Nevernight, same thing, not 100% sure what it's about, but I know that it has a ton of people that love this series, and yeah, so I went ahead and grabbed that. Want to read that. And then Scythe is another one that I have heard a lot of really great things about that I'm excited to get to eventually, and that is my red book. So that is the 4th of July book tag. I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you're feeling patriotic, go ahead and do this one as well. But I hope that you have a fantastic and safe 4th of July if you are here in the United States. Make sure to stay safe with all the fireworks and all of the partying that's going on. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have read any of these books or have any comments about them, I would love to hear down in the comments below. I love connecting with you that way. But otherwise, I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.